Yeah. We are in the book of Esther. If you look at my background, you'll see that I have Esther written behind me. That's not a real book, though. It's just a background. In yesterday's lesson, we talked about how Mordecai and Esther, they stopped the assassination of the king. Mordecai found out the two guards, they had a bone to pick with the king, and they wanted to assassinate him during the banquet and the festivities, during the celebration. Esther told king about it, and the assassination was stopped. Let's see what happens next. Milady, Queen Esther, may I offer you some fruit this morning? Esther says, I used to get these fruits from my cousin whenever we had a spare coin. And now look at me. Now I can have as much as I want. She's living in a comfort. She has everything she ever wanted. Your cousin, he's that Mordecai who works at the king's gate, is he not? Yes, I expected to see more of him than I have in the weeks and months since I was crowned queen. I have much more freedom than I did in the concubine, but ever since Haman was promoted, I've seen Mordecai but a few times. Now, Haman, if you remember Haman, he's that guy who was kind of close to the king, and Mordecai and Haman don't really like each other. Let's see what happens. I think King Xerxes forgot about how my cousin foiled the assassination plot. How else can you explain that he gave Haman a promotion like that, but my cousin remains in his position at the king's gate? Yes, Mordecai, he's the one who stopped the assassination. The king was not killed because of him, and that was written in the records, like the history books, but everybody forgot about it, and he was not rewarded for it. And that's why she's a little bit sad. Your cousin sure did put a pebble in Haman's sandal, though, refusing to bow the way he did. Haman thinks just because he has the king's favor that he can act like a king himself, but my cousin was not refusing to bow to anger Haman. Then why? Because he, Milady, Esther, what is it? Hitash, not Hitash, but Hathach. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Hathach. Almost Hitash. Milady, I know you are fond of the older gentleman who works at the king's gate. You have even received him into your company a few times since I was assigned to you as one of the king's eunuchs. Today, I saw him outside the king's gate. That is where he works, Hathach. No, my queen, he was outside the king's gate because he was not allowed any farther than that. Not allowed any farther? What do you mean? Asks Esther. Why wasn't he allowed? Why wasn't he allowed? Let's see. Waiting. There we go. He was clad in sackcloth and was weeping, mourning with ashes. As you well know, no one wearing the clothes of mourners is allowed past the king's gate. Something terrible has happened. For some reason, Mordecai is, he covered himself with sackcloth. That's very, very rough fabric that kind of makes your skin very itchy. And he put ashes on his head. And that's something they did in the past, in those times, to show that they're very sad, that they are just in sorrow, that they are super sad. That's what they did. But why? What happened? Why is he feeling that way? Esther says, I must go and tend to him. Something awful must have happened. Lady Esther, no, you cannot go down there. You are queen, but there are appearances that must be kept. Something must be done. Bring him to me so I can help him. So she cannot go to him because she's a queen now, and queens cannot just go and come wherever they want to, even though it seems that they do still. He cannot enter in those clothes. Then go, Hathach, take him some clothes and bring him here. Let him know that whatever is wrong, I will fix it for him, she says. And so let's see what happened. Hathach, where is Mordecai? Good queen, I beg your mercy. I took him the clothes as you ordered me to, and he refuses to take off the sackcloth. What has happened to him that he cannot stop his mourning to come to me? What terrible thing has happened? Hathach, you must go back to him and find out what is wrong. She cannot go and see him. He cannot come to her. But she's really worried about Mordecai. What happened? Why is he in such distress and sorrow? Lady Esther, you asked me to inform you when Hathach arrived. He's here. Thank you, Shabnan. So finally, let's see what happened. Hathach, did Mordecai explain everything to you? He did, Your Highness. Do you remember how Mordecai refused to bow to Haman when Haman was promoted? I do. So does Haman. Apparently, Mordecai did not bow to Haman because Mordecai is a Jew. Is this true? Yes, we are Jews. We believe there is but one God, and we will only worship that one God. I now know, and it may have cost you everything. What do you mean? Are you not aware of the recent law King Xerxes has passed? This is the law. You know that when the king promoted Haman, Haman attached to his position the expectation that people would bow to him. So now Haman is, which one? This must be Haman, right? Now everybody has to bow to him. Or this guy. One of them. I'm not sure. No, must be this one. Yes. These are slaves. Haman is the one with hair. And everybody has to bow to him. You know that your cousin refused to bow because he's a Jew. But here is something you do not know. What? Haman's dislike for Mordecai is not merely pride and politics, but from generations of hatred toward your people. He cast lots for the luckiest day to kill them all. Now, because Mordecai didn't bow to him, he hates Mordecai for that. Not only Mordecai, but all the Jews. And he wants to destroy the whole nation of Jews, not just Mordecai. And even he cast lots to see which day would be best to kill them. But that's a story for another day, for tomorrow, actually. Let's read about this Haman guy. Some people pronounce his name as Haman. Some people say Haman. In the original language too, it's Haman, but in English, they always change words in English. So in English, it's Haman. Let's read the VIP, and VIP means very important person. Who's the VIP? I'll ask, who shall I ask to read? Guyana, okay, go for it.
The VIP, very important person. Mordecai has saved King Xerxes from being murdered, and although the details of what happened were written in a book, the king soon forgot about it. Sometime later, the king promoted a man called Haman to a position above all the other officials. The king ordered that everyone should bow down to Haman as a sign of respect. But Mordecai would not bow down to him or honor him in any way. The other officials asked Mordecai why he refused to bow down to Haman and tried to persuade him to obey the king's command. But Mordecai refused to bow or kneel before Haman. So the officials went and told Haman to see if he would let Mordecai get away with it. But when Haman found out about Mordecai's disrespect for him, he was furious and started thinking of a way to kill him as well as getting rid of all the Jews.
That's right. That's what Haman plans to do. He wants to destroy them all, Mordecai and all the other Jews too. But little does he know that Queen Esther is a Jew, and that's gonna be something that he's going to, that's gonna ruin him and his plans. Esther. Is it wrong to bow to an important person? Well, I know that in Sri Lanka, there's a lot of bowing to people, right? What is the reason you're doing
Yes.
that? Well, let's read this part first, and then we'll talk about that. I'm not saying it's wrong, okay? So don't just get offended and leave. Let's just read. And who would like to read that part? Tehila, would you read for us, please?
Okay.
All right, read loudly so we can all hear clearly. You can start. Tahila?
Is it wrong to bow to an important person? In some cultures, when greeting someone or leaving a gathering of people, it is polite to bow. For some, bowing is as common as shaking a person's hand, while for others, bowing is something you would only do if you entered the throne room of a king. Bowing to a person is a sign of respect. However, when we bow before God in prayer, it is more than a sign of respect. It is an act of humble surrender. It is a way of showing that we accept God's authority. The Bible just tells us not to bow down to idols and gods. Leviticus 26, verse 1. But it does not forbid us to bow down to a person. Yet it is just as wrong to bow down in adoration of a person as it is to bow down to an idol. Only God deserves to be worshipped because He is the King of kings and the Lord of the lords.
Yeah, so the difference is when the bowing is done as a sign of respect, there's nothing wrong with that. It means we respect that person, so we bow down. In Korea, for example, people always greet each other by bowing down. It doesn't mean that we worship them. It's a sign of respect. When you bow down before the king, right? It's a sign of respect. But if we worship those people, if we show the adoration of a person by bowing down, if we what is this? If we consider that an act of humble surrender, like we do in front of a God, then it's going to be wrong, because God says you should not worship any idol or any person, because God is the only one who created all things. That's the difference. Now, in Sri Lanka too, there's some bowing down. If it's done as a sign of the respect of a person, there's nothing wrong with it, right? But if you bow down to the person and worship them like a god, like you would worship a god, then it's going to be wrong. Do you see that? Let's read the verse for today, and then maybe some people might disagree with me, and we can talk about it and discuss this. Verse for today, ready, go. Come, let us
bow down in worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker.
Let us bow down in worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker.
Psalm 95:6. That's right. Yeah. So if you bow down to a person, like to teachers, for example, I've seen students bowing down to their teachers. What is the meaning of that? Does it mean that you respect them? Probably, right? I don't know. Did you ever ask yourself why you do that?
Yeah.
No, you've never asked yourself, well, it's a culture. I know everybody's doing that, so we're doing that too, right? But what is the reason for that? If you want to do that as a sign of respect, you respect your teachers and you appreciate them in your life, sure, go for that. Do that. But if you worship them and say, if you worship them like you worship God, that's gonna be wrong. You understand why? Because teachers, people are not gods, and we do not worship them. We respect them. Only God deserves to be worshipped. Only God deserves for us to have a humble surrender in front of Him, not people. But to show respect, sure, do that. Nothing's wrong with the respect, right?
I
hope I didn't offend anyone. I hope I did not offend anyone today.
So what you are telling is like we should respect our God who gave
Respect
us
people, yeah. Respect
who gave
people
us life, and we should also respect the people like who are our leaders, who protect the country, who work for us, who serves for us. That's what you mean.
Yes, that's what I mean. Respect people. Well, we have to respect all people, right? If I disrespect you and say something bad to you, disrespectful, you'll get offended and your heart will get broken and then you will never
Yeah,
talk to
and
me
then
again.
we also will get angry with you, and we also will
You
get
know,
angry
moral
with you, and
education, treat other people the way you want to be treated. That's the golden rule. If you want to be
Yes.
respected, you have to respect other people.
fairness.
Fair and respect.
Yes, sir.
Let me stop the recording.